mangrove forest is the backbone. That's what keep this island together in the natural formation, not a seawall. We ain't talking about no man-made areas. We talking about what nature provides us with. I call it the backbone is because that's the source of our strength. I think if that area be further developed, I think nature could destroy this island. Bimini is just a rock. Ain't nothing was here. The only life was here was the life that exists in the backbone or in the heart.
Well, Bimini is a small little island in the middle of, actually in the middle of nowhere. One of the smallest islands in the Bahamas, but it's also one of the most developed. My name is Ashley Sanders, and I'm local. I'm born and raised in Bimini. The two Biminis is north and south, primarily two islands, north and south. But the chain, when you look at the chain of the small little rocks and keys, it extends 30 miles.
You know, everyone is basically close family relatives. It's like a family island. 5 last names make up the general population here. My name is Denver Stewart. I'm a Biminite from Bimini, 5th generation. Bimini is the fishing capital of the world.
We still have the northeastern Atlantic world record for bonefish called guided by Ansel Saunders. It was 16.5 pounds, which is a pretty big fish. He always tells that story about it. So just keeping that treasure alive is very important to Bimini. My name is Chandra David, and I'm a bonefish guide at Bimini. I've been a bonefish guide since I was 16. My old man, he was a bonefish guide. I'm 3rd generation, he's 2nd. Growing up, I can go up there, I can walk up there and go with a little rod and just catch bonefish all day. Bonefish is the 7th fastest fish on the planet. And the fight it gives is pretty incredible. With that, flats fishing in general is amazing because you just never know what you'll see out there.
If we go a mile off to the west side, we might be in the pelagic waters of the Gulf Stream. And if we go a mile to the east, we're going to be in the sand flats, seagrass areas, mangroves. It's high biodiversity, and it's all packed around a very small island. Mangroves, and specifically red mangroves, are kind of the staple of coastlines throughout much of the tropical and temperate world. They provide this structure of very, very complex roots that help to hold in all the sediment along coastlines. They help to basically provide a breakwater for storms. They also provide a very, very complex habitat that allows for protection of small things like small fish, like small sharks, like small invertebrates that can then grow in that protection and then move out to other areas.
You get conch, you get lobsters, you get seahorse, starfish, sponges, all these marine life, depend on whatever magic it is the mangrove doing. So when you talk to me about the mangrove, you talking about the backbone of the island. That's what does, keep everything together. Something would have a backbone. Obviously, it needs that bone.
Historically, this area is really, really important on a personal level with people. Environmentally, it's a huge importance as well. Sharks are using this as a nursery habitat, but the nursery starts with the mothers, so the mothers are actually coming back to the same nursery that they were born in, and they're dropping their pups.
We need to remember that sharks are very, very long-lived. They start out very, very small. At a certain point, if we allow them and provide the resources to reach maturity, they are large predators. But along the way, they need all of these different habitats that are very, very important. And so if we remove some of those mangroves which provide refuge, then you're changing that. They use that for refuge, but then they come out and forage in the seagrass. It's the same for other fish species as well.
So the sharks are something that is our focal point that we're passionate about, but it's also conch, lobster. There's larvae that's coming from the Gulf Stream from different countries, and it's coming up and sitting in Bimini and growing.
Everybody who visits Bimini wants to have a conch salad or a lobster wrap. Without these nursery habitats, then there won't be a sustainable population for tourism. It would only be a matter of time until we'd have to start exporting what we're so lucky to already just have in our back door.
It ain't just the mangrove, it's this intercoastal itself.
When they dredge, for example, the cruise ship pier and the channel for those cruise ships, that took out all the reef that was there, which was a pretty good reef, especially for the local fishermen that needed that stuff to sustain themselves.
In nature, you very rarely see a straight line, homogeneous type of thing like a concrete seawall that doesn't provide the structure for a lot of animals.
The beach itself is dissipating. The ocean is trying to replenish the sand that was basically gone, and people will argue with you, oh, beaches come and go, but I've been here all my life. Beaches don't come and go, and our beach is not coming back.
The battle for North Bimini Marine Reserve, or a marine protected area, has been going on now for probably close to 20 years.
Neil Watson put in a proposal for the Marine Reserve, and it was declined, of course. 2 years later, his son put in for it, and a lot of the Bahamians didn't back it because he initially wanted a no-take zone, which I believe affected a lot of people because they, gathered a lot of the conch off the flats. A lot of the nursery held a lot of big fish that they needed for food. That was one reason it was declined. But because of that, it created something much worse because no one looked at long term.
As time goes on, we're seeing this development is kind of creeping further and further towards the bigger area of mangroves. And at what point does the development stop? Is it just going to stop with one developer, or do other people then think, okay, this is open land and we can come in and use it?
I don't understand how even a foreigner could own more land than every Bimini put together. We could put all our land together and we wouldn't be nowhere near close to what these fellas have. You see?
Recently, there's been news that there's going to be kind of a Hampton-style resort built, as well as an 18-hole golf course.
Both of my brothers work in the golf industry. Their lives are revolved around golf. They both actually visited Bimini a few weeks ago. They're like, yeah, I love golf, it's my life, but I think it would be stupid getting rid of everything up here. People come here just to say they played in the Bahamas, not knowing that a bad hurricane could potentially rip out that entire golf course. When it comes to the fertilizer, we already see what happens in Florida with all these golf courses and the fertilizer runoff causing red tides and stuff, and so it could potentially cause a red tide in Bimini. When this runoff is carried off by the tides, it's not just affecting the mangroves that are surrounding the golf course, it's going to go and spread across the entire island. There's a reason why people come to Bimini, and it's for its natural beauty. It's not to come here just to go to a casino. A lot of the social media posts about it talk about sustainability, and if you actually think about it, it's very invasive when it comes to taking out the mangroves to build these structures.
There's a lot of uncertainty as to if it'll ever happen. Sometimes the proposals are taken away, sometimes they come back up after a few years, and so it kind of has most of the community at a bit of a loss, not knowing at what point it might actually happen or what the future really holds for the area.
They don't even realize there's really somebody home. But we need to ask the question what it takes for them to make the right move or the right decision, or even come up with the right idea.
In 2017, there was a protest for the further development on North Bimini. It was basically a whole group of local Biminites who got together. They were trying to basically raise awareness and express their dislike for the further development. I think there's a bit of maybe compassion fatigue that people have reached with this, because it's something that's been so ongoing and so many promises have been made. I feel like I can really understand why Biminites might be exhausted by having this fight again and again and again, and this constant change of, is this a protected area or is this not a protected area? It was kind of interesting to be here when people were, really driven by this, and also to see, some people are just like, what can we do? And they're feeling, burnt out by this.
People are going to do what they want to do, however they do it. But if you really care enough, you should talk to the locals and ask. It would change a lot of perspectives.
There's lots of little things that can be done, and every little kind of thing that you can do does help overall.
Pick up trash. Every morning I sweep this road that goes on this street. I pick up the trash. I don't want to see no litter on this road because it got my name on it. It says on this street, so it's my duty to keep it clean.
Bring money back into the local economy. Try to stay at local facilities, eat at local diners, dive with local dive operators, go with places that have education and conservation kind of in mind. I think just being educated about where you are and what impact you might have in the place that you go to is a really huge step that you can take in being a good tourist and being an environmentalist when you're traveling around. Part of the beauty of Bimini are these beautiful beaches and these beautiful crystal clear blue water. And if it goes too fast and too hard, it's going to kind of take away from what makes Bimini so special.
But with most things in life, it's all about how are you going to do it in moderation and sustainability. Trying to think forward to the next 30 to 50 years of the impact on the ecosystem, and maybe not just the next 3 to 5 years of what the economic development might be.
As far as Bimini's future is concerned, it's just that the people are going to have to try to maintain their culture, cultural things like the Kong salad. They're going to have to continue to always have that available. All these things would be under threat if the people don't embrace and keep it going.
My hope for the future of Bimini is to honestly just let the people who live here get a chance to say of what happens to their own island.
We supposed to have some say, we supposed to have some rights. We supposed to, know that is what we want, what we need, and what we don't need.
I want to give someone that same experience that Ansel was able to give that guy who caught that world record. If we were to talk conservation-wise, even if I were to get that record, I don't know how I would, go about claiming that world record. Most of the time when you claim a world record, that fish has to die. I don't know if I'd ever break it in terms of officially, but I would like to get close.
Blue marlin is the national fish of the Bahamas. They don't come here just to swim around because the water clear. They just come here because they have areas they could come and give bite. But the marlin was swimming around the marina for a few days. No one really knew why. Everyone was saying the marlin was lost because the marlin is basically an ocean fish. The guys was tying rebar steel in a seawall somewhere up there by the resort. They harpooned the marlin, they pulled the marlin up, they started to clean the marlin and realized the marlin was a female. Is because the stomach was full of newborn marlins. The only person lost in all of this is everybody were trying to invest in destroying the rest of the natural habitat we have. Them people lost. The marlin wasn't lost.
Matthew, what do you think about the mangroves?